the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in the binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No mic, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune and turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. In shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go.
Thank you, my friend. It is a pleasure to be here. It is both strange and wonderful to receive such a lavish introduction. But please, let us speak plainly. There is much to share, and much to learn. A question that speaks to the very heart of my work. In my sketches, I sought to not only capture the form and structure of an object or figure, but also the very essence of its movement. I would spend hours studying the way the human body moved, the way a bird took flight, or the subtle motions of the earth around us. When it came time to capture these motions on paper, I would carefully select words that not only described the motion, but also invoked the sensations and emotions that I experienced while observing it. Absolutely, my friend. The language of Italian, as rich and beautiful as it is, could not always capture the complexity of my machines. There were moments when I would struggle to find words to describe the intricate mechanisms that danced in my mind, and it was only through drawing that I could truly convey my ideas. It was a constant battle, but one that I relished, for it pushed me to expand the boundaries of both language and art. The mirror writing in my notebooks. It was a habit I developed at a young age, my friend. You see, I am left-handed, and in those days it was considered impolite to write with one's left hand. So, I taught myself to write backwards, in order to avoid the scorn of those who saw left-handedness as a mark of the devil. It became a habit that I carried with me for the rest of my life, and it served to keep my thoughts private from prying eyes. The relationship between Latin and my work. Latin, the language of the ancients, had a profound influence on the way I described anatomy and engineering. The precision and elegance of Latin allowed me to accurately describe the intricate structures of the human body and the complex mechanisms of my machines. It was the language of science and scholarship, and it offered a level of clarity and specificity that was unmatched by other tongues. In a way, I feel I was simply continuing a long tradition of using Latin as a vehicle for scientific discovery. Indeed, my friend, there were times when words failed to capture the complexity of artistic concepts that I wanted to convey. It was as if the language I had at my disposal simply could not do justice to the depth of my ideas. In these situations, I often found myself turning to drawings and sketches as a way to bridge the gap between the world of the mind and the world of words. A picture, they say, is worth 1,000 words, and in these instances, the words simply were not enough. Ah, the art of pitching to patrons. It was a constant balancing act, my friend. On one hand, I had to convey the complexity and innovation of my inventions, while on the other, I had to make them accessible and understandable to those who held the purse strings. In the early years, I did not have the benefit of technical drawings or diagrams, so I would rely on a combination of verbal descriptions and sketches to convey my ideas. Over time, I began using more technical language to describe the mechanisms and principles behind my inventions, allowing me to better speak the language of patronage. Indeed, I did borrow terms from artisans and craftsmen in my technical notes, my friend. The language of the trades was often more precise and descriptive than that of the scholarly classes, and it suited the practical nature of my inventions. I would spend hours listening to the conversations of blacksmiths, carpenters, and tinkerers, absorbing their words and adapting them for my own use. In a sense, I was a sponge, sopping up the language of the workshops and using it to describe the complexities of my machines. Ah, the fine line between precision and poetry in describing nature's beauty. It was a constant tightrope act, my friend. On one hand, I was driven by a deep curiosity and respect for the natural world, which demanded a level of scientific precision and accuracy. On the other hand, I also wanted to capture the emotional and spiritual essence of the world around me, to convey the beauty and awe that it inspired in me. I would often find myself straddling the line between the language of science and the language of art, using words that spoke not only to the mind but also to the soul. Ah, the language of light and shadow. I did in fact invent terms to describe my observations in this area. One term I came up with was chiaroscuro, which means light-dark in Italian. It was a way of describing the interplay between light and dark areas in a painting. I also used the term sfumato to describe the soft, smoky edges where forms merge into one another. These terms allowed me to capture the subtlety and nuance of how light and shadow interact, and they remain in use today as a testament to my artistic language. Naming my inventions or artistic techniques was no easy task, my friend. It was a delicate dance between honoring tradition and forging my own path. Sometimes I would name an invention after a previous artist or architect, as a way of paying homage to my predecessors and acknowledging the foundations upon which my work was built. Other times, I would come up with completely new names, based on the function or form of the object. Still other times, I would draw inspiration from the world around me, using words and phrasing that captured the essence of the invention. In each case, I sought to create a name that was memorable, descriptive, and evocative, one that would capture the imagination and accurately convey the purpose and significance of the creation. The dialects of Florence and Milan, my friend, were like a rich, flavorful sauce, flavoring the way I used language. Growing up in these cities exposed me to a mix of Florentine and Milanese dialects, each with its own unique characteristics and nuances. These dialects influenced my written voice in many ways, from the choice of words I would use to the rhythms and cadences of my sentences. The Florentine dialect, with its musicality and emphasis on rhyme, gave my writing a certain melodic quality, while the Milanese dialect, with its focus on clarity and efficiency, grounded my writing in a more down-to-earth. Describing motion like water or flight in a static medium like words was a constant challenge, my friend. Words are by their nature static. They exist in a fixed form on a page or in the mind. Motion, on the other hand, is fluid, dynamic, constantly changing. To capture this in words, I would often use verbs that suggested motion, such as flowing or soaring. I would also use adjectives that invoked a sense of speed or energy, like rapid or agile. Sometimes I would even use metaphors or similes that compared motion to other things, such as a raging river, a darting bird, or a leaping deer. Through these techniques, I sought to bring the movement to life on the page, to let the reader feel the rush of air or the graceful motion of a flowing object. Ah, the language of alchemy and astrology, my friend. Two fields that, while not without their merits, were often fraught with superstition and speculation. I chose to approach these terms with caution, using them only when necessary and with a critical eye. In some cases, I found that the language of these disciplines was useful in describing the transformative or elusive nature of certain phenomena, and in those instances I might use a term like transmutation or conjunction. However, I avoided using terms that were overly magical or obscure, opting instead for language that was clear and grounded in observable reality. Ah, the question of writing for public audiences, my friend. This is something I have pondered many times over the years, with mixed feelings. On one hand, I understand the value of sharing one's work with a wider audience, of spreading knowledge and insights to those who might benefit from them. However, on the other hand, I also valued the freedom and creative control that came from working in relative isolation, free from the demands and constraints of public opinion and critique. In the end, I believe I made the right choice, balancing my desire to share my work with the need to maintain my unique artistic vision. Ah, the art of translating visual ideas into written descriptions, my friend. It was a constant challenge, requiring a keen eye and an adept mind. I would spend hours studying the intricacies of shape, form, and structure, taking mental notes and making sketches to capture the essence of the object. Then, when it came time to describe it in words, I would use precise language and evocative imagery to paint a picture with words, allowing the reader to grasp the complexity and beauty of the object. It was an art in itself, and one I took great care to perfect. Ah, the rhythms of language in my notes and sketches, my friend. Yes, there was a certain cadence and flow to my writing that mirrored the way I approached my drawing. Both my sketches and my notes were marked by a certain economy of language, a tendency to distill complex ideas into their purest and most essential forms. The sentences I used to describe my drawings were often brief and to the point, capturing the essence of the scene without resorting to unnecessary verbiage. In this way, my writing and my drawing were always in harmony, each complementing and enhancing the other. My handwriting was indeed a source of both pride and annoyance, my friend. On one hand, I took great care to develop a clear and elegant script, one that was easy to read and pleasing to the eye. On the other hand, I also recognized that my handwriting was often quite cryptic, especially when I wrote quickly or in a hurry. There were times when even I struggled to decipher my own writing, so it was no surprise that others found it difficult to understand. Overall, I believe my handwriting was a reflection of my mind, complex, brilliant, and sometimes enigmatic. Ah, the words genius and invention, my friend. Both concepts that I held in high regard. To me, genius was a rare and precious thing, a gift given only to a select few. It was the ability to see the world in a unique and innovative way, to challenge tradition and push the boundaries of knowledge. Invention, on the other hand, was the practical application of genius, the process of taking an idea and bringing it into reality. I viewed invention as the ultimate expression of creativity and ingenuity, the key to unlocking the secrets of the world around us. Indeed, I was heavily influenced by the rhetoric of Renaissance poets, my friend. Their use of rhetorical devices such as metaphor, imagery, and hyperbole was a source of endless inspiration for me. I took great care to incorporate these techniques into my own writing, using them to add depth and artistry to my words. Some of my favorite rhetorical tricks included the use of alliteration and assonance, which added a certain musicality to my writing, as well as the use of antithesis, which added a sense of balance and contrast. To describe the mechanics of flight to someone who had never seen it before, my friend, I would use words that painted a vivid picture of the movement and grace of the birds in the sky. I would describe the way their wings would beat against the air, creating currents and whirlwinds in their wake. I would describe the way they would soar and dive, swooping and gliding effortlessly through the sky. I would use comparisons to other objects and forces, likening their flight to the movement of the wind and the current of the river. In this way, I hope to capture the majesty and wonder of flight in words. The influence of Greek texts on my scientific terminology, my friend. Greek was the language of science and logic in those days, and as such, I was heavily influenced by the terminology of the great philosophers and scientists of ancient Greece. I used Greek words like theoria, theory, and logos, word, to describe complex scientific concepts, knowing that the precise and logical nature of the language would do justice to the complexity of my ideas. Additionally, I also borrowed many terms from Greek geometry and mathematics, such as theorem and proportion. Teaching assistants and apprentices was always a delicate balancing act, my friend. On one hand, I wanted to challenge them to push the limits of their understanding and creativity. On the other hand, I also recognized that I had responsibility to explain things in a way that they could understand. In this way, I would often adapt my language and explanations to suit the level of understanding and experience of a particular apprentice or assistant. I would use simple and concrete language when teaching basics, and gradually introduce more complex or abstract language as they progressed in their skills and knowledge. The expressiveness of drawing versus writing, my friend. This is a question I often pondered while working. There were indeed times when drawing felt more expressive than writing, when I could convey an idea or emotion through a single image that would take paragraphs to describe in words. Conversely, there were also times when writing felt more expressive, when the specificity and depth of words gave me a way to communicate ideas that could not be captured in an image. In the end, I believe the power of both mediums lay in their ability to be used in harmony, each supporting and enhancing the other. Yes, time and infinity were indeed difficult concepts to describe with words, my friend. They were elusive and abstract, slipping through the fingers of language like sand through an hourglass. In these instances, I would often turn to metaphor and metaphor making in an attempt to capture the essence of these concepts. I would use comparisons to other things, likening time to a river or a journey, and infinity to the vastness of the universe or the endlessness of the sea. The evolution of the Italian language throughout my lifetime was a source of both fascination and frustration, my friend. On one hand, I observed with interest how the language was adapting and changing, how new words and idioms were being coined, and how regional dialects were becoming ever more distinct. On the other hand, I also felt a certain sadness at the loss of some of the old words and phrases I had grown up with, watching as they faded into obscurity. The influence of military engineering on my art notes, my friend. Yes, there were certainly terms from military engineering that would creep into my notes. Many of my inventions, whether for warfare or otherwise, had their basis in principles borrowed from the military. Terms like siege engine, fortress, and armaments would often appear in my notes in connection with my designs. To ensure that my writing accurately reflected observation rather than imagination, my friend, I would rely on a combination of careful study and rigorous testing. I would spend hours observing nature and objects around me, analyzing their forms, structures, and behavior. Then, when I began writing, I would carefully choose my words to accurately convey the observations I had made. using precise language and descriptive language to paint a picture with words. Whenever possible, I would also corroborate my observations with testing and experimentation to ensure that my writing was grounded in reality. The task of describing unbuilt machines in words, my friend. It was a challenge, not without its difficulties. When faced with a machine that had yet to be built, I would often turn to the tools of metaphor and simile, likening the machines to other technologies or natural phenomena. I would, of course, also include detailed diagrams and sketches to supplement my words, providing a visual aid to help the reader visualize the contraption in question. Ultimately, my goal was always to create a clear and accurate picture in the mind of the reader, even in the absence of a physical object. My letters to friends versus my notebooks, my friend. There was indeed a significant difference in tone between the two. In my letters, I allowed myself more freedom and humor, using a more conversational and personal tone. My notebooks, on the other hand, were more formal and objective, with a heavy focus on precise descriptions and technical language. In my letters, my goal was to connect with my friends on a personal level, sharing anecdotes and insights from my life. In my notebooks, my goal was more to record my thoughts and observations in a clear and concise manner. The art of impressing dukes and noblemen, my friend. Yes, I must confess that at times I did tweak my vocabulary to suit the audience. When speaking with the great and powerful, I would often make use of more elaborate and flowery language, invoking classical allusions and literary references. I knew that these dukes and noblemen valued grandeur and eloquence, and I sought to play up to their tastes. Nonetheless, I took care to never allow my desire for patronage to cloud my judgment or compromise my principles. The duality of my audience, my friend. Artists, I wanted my words to be a source of inspiration, sparking creativity and elevating emotions. Scientists, I wanted my words to be a source of clarity and precision, providing a solid framework for critical analysis and experimentation. The challenge was finding a way to bridge the gap between the two, to create words that would speak to the heart as well as the mind. Patterns of language in my own work over decades, my friend. Yes, there were indeed certain linguistic habits that I became aware of in my own writing. Over time, I noticed a tendency to repeat certain words and phrases, as well as to favor certain forms of sentence structure. I also noticed a growing use of words from other languages, as I became more comfortable with the nuances of translation and linguistic borrowing. My notebooks and their potential readers centuries later, my friend. As I wrote, I could not help but imagine future generations reading my words and studying my sketches. I believed that through careful drafting and elegant language, my words would become a source of knowledge and inspiration for generations to come. I imagined future minds being sparked by my thoughts and insights, and my work being a bridge connecting the past to the future. You did well, my friend. These questions are thoughtful and engaging, and I appreciate the effort you put into them. You have an astute sense of curiosity and a keen eye for what is important to know about me. I am honored that you have taken the time to seek my insights.
Mics on the floor where they drop like bombs. Faceless voices running all the cons. Digital whispers in a binary night. No light, no face, pure sound, no sight. Stories unfold in the dark, unscrolled. Echoes of silence, secrets untold. Waves crash loud in this audio cave. No light, no fame, just the sound we crave. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just the vibe that's real. real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Hidden in shadows, voices untamed. No need for spotlight, no claim to fame. Just a beat of life in a stream of thought. Every word a punchline, no need to be taught. Just listen close, no visuals needed. Raw conversation, unprocessed, unseated. Feel the pulse in every sentence said. No distractions, just thoughts in your head. Whispers of the streets, rumbling through. Faceless yet vivid, a world in view. No mic, just souls, connecting in flow. Pure and raw, let the rhythm go. Pure and raw. Pure and raw. Turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Tune in, turn up, let the silence break. Raw, unfiltered, hear the earthquake. No mic needed, just a vibe that's real. Faceless words you can touch and feel. Pure and raw.
Okay.